Welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith, and I'm always delighted to introduce you to people that we feel are making an impact, offering something new and refreshing through their work or their thoughts. And today I'm really delighted to introduce you to a radiologist, Harry Agress, who believes, and I can say actually affirms, that the best years of your life could very well be your retirement years. So you might be thinking, how can that be? And he's going to tell us all about it with his new book. And his new book is entitled Next Year's Best Years, Taking Your Retirement to the Next Level. So I'm very, very happy to get to, I already know you, but interview you and get to talk with you about what you've been up to the last few years, Harry.
Well,
So
thank you, Meredith.
Start with was the fact that you were a radiologist, very, of course, committed to your work and everything. And it was like nonstop for what, about 30, over 35 years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And at that point, you decided to retire, right? Maybe
Yes.
not willingly. I mean, sometimes I don't mean willingly. I know in my case, my husband was the one, my late husband was the one that kind of said, don't you want to retire? Shouldn't you? And I was saying, no, no. And I feel that it changed my life in many wonderful ways too. So I can relate to this.
Mhm.
So Harry, tell me a little bit about you know, how you retired or why you just retired and why you decided then, of course, to explore this idea for a book.
Well, I really loved what I did. I loved all the interaction with other physicians. I loved the whole diagnostic radiology world, and I was lucky enough to have been there during the peak of all the major imaging technology, CAT scanning, MRI, PET CT, et cetera.
Yeah.
And but I got to a point where I retired when I was 68. I did
Mhm.
have the options to keep on, but one thing that started to happen is the volume got very, very big, and it became more stressful, and also the communication with my fellow physicians was diminishing because everything was being done remotely. And basically, I thought there were other things that I wanted to consider. Um, but I really enjoyed it, and it I think the timing for me was good. And basically, one thing that helped was I created a worksheet for myself called Pros and Cons of Work. And as I made it my pro and con columns, it was a dynamic thing. And then I allowed everything to sort of come to the fore and back of my mind. And, what was I enjoying? What was I, feeling was beginning to be a little different or maybe lacking. And the cons started to outweigh the pros for that stage of my life. And I figured, now it's time to move on.
Wow. So you did move on, and we are going to get into that. But that's interesting to me because you really did it very, as you say, scientifically, And then what happened to you when you saw that was time to move on, through this organized, questionnaire for yourself? Did you feel like was that kind of a wake up call to you?
It was definitely a wake-up call. And the way that I dealt with it is I really like lists, and I like organizing things. And I've made some more lists after the pro cons, and excuse me, and just started to think about what are the things that I really love. And I really, for me to commit it to paper was very helpful. And I made a list and it included my wife and my family and photography and a number of other things. And then I created another list, which I called
Right.
things that make me feel good. And that's a little different than things I love. It's a little more conceptual. And I was trying to get into the part of my head about what kind of things make me feel really satisfied. So, for example, um, I, as I said before, I love to organize things. In this case, I wanted to organize my photographs and develop a website and pick the best ones and comb through 20,000 photographs. Um, I love connecting people. I love learning about very accomplished people in their earlier years. I find really fascinating what motivated them, made them different than the rest of the world. And so those were more conceptual. And then I wrote down a list of things I would like to try, irrespective of whether I would be any good at it, just and by doing those three lists, it really forced me to become more in touch with, where I was and where I wanted to go.
Interesting. I mean, that requires a lot of honesty with oneself, doesn't it? I feel
Yes,
that most people, and I think I was like that until I retired. I kept saying, but I love my work. I love my work. I love working at the TV station, right? Then for over 35 years. And it was hard for me to have that honesty with myself that things could be better, that things could be more interesting, which they are now. They really are. So, do you think that people need to go through some kind of a process like you did to be able to
yes, yes.
understand, to know the truth about what's going on inside? It's an inside
Right. I mean, it's really it really is self-reflection to the max. And
thing.
I think, what you went through and what I went through is very, very common with anybody who worked at the same job for so many years, for decades. And they become, it's been described as enmeshment. They're meant, who they are as enmeshed in work. And when the work stops, it's very hard to give that up. And the friends that you have, the way you think, how people need you, etc. And for me, doing the sheets really, really helped, but it takes a little time. It's not something that just happens overnight. And uh, I, that was probably the biggest thing, was the self-reflection. But to me, what I finally came to realize is that the, um, I think retirement is just totally unique opportunity. It is
Mm.
really, it's unlike anything we've had since we were little kids, where, uh, we can really start getting into the emotional and the personal and the developmental parts of our personality and our inner selves. And that's really what the book is all about. It's about how to go about that, and then examples of how people have done that, and some are mine, some are others. Um, I think the idea is it's really a time to refresh, and it's very much
Mm.
in keeping with what you all are doing at the center. And it is about saying, okay, I will finally, this is right to your point. I am willing to take another look at where I am and really start thinking about what was going to make me feel fulfilled, what's going to make me happy. And I think once you start to move on to that and you start trying new things, and you slowly do get away from that. So now, as much as I feel I'm a physician and I still teach
Great.
voluntarily, but that is not my main focus at all, in terms of being, my enmeshment with being a physician. That is something that was wonderful and in the past, and now I think of a whole nother person, essentially.
Do you think? I love hearing this. I really do, because I did go through this too. I was even afraid to go to the supermarket during the day because I thought, what if people see me? Why am I shopping during the day, for food?
Right. Yes, I
I was
totally get
working
it.
and I went shopping usually on the weekend or at night.
Right,
It really, it's like, what do people, I mean, these people in the supermarket don't even know who I was. Maybe one person would see me. But
right.
it was just this feeling like your work is your identity, especially if you've done, like you say, like we have done, worked in the same, area for so many years. So it's the hardest thing then I think for people is to say, I'm not that identity necessarily. I have, there's another whole me, lots of me that, like you say, I've never even explored.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think, one of the other things is that to recognize is this is a much wider playing field than what you've ever
Mhm.
had, during work, in terms of fewer obligations, in every aspect of your life. And it is a time that is really should be just for you. And part of that is taking these fears and these anxieties that you're talking about, and I certainly have the same ones, and it's very common. and turn them into freedoms. So there are certain freedoms that come with this time. One is freedom from failure. There's no such thing as failure, really. I mean, just trying things. You don't have to worry about what other people think, and just like, you were worrying when you're going in the supermarket, you don't have to worry about it,
Right.
because the truth is it's you, it's your life, and no one's going to, go nuts once they realize you retire. They're going to be happy for you, if you're happy. And I think the other thing is, that the corollary of that is not worrying about who you're trying to impress. There's just no need at this time, to deal with any of that.
Beautifully said. I mean, at that, there is a point in your life, and I love, hearing this. It's almost like you have to stop caring, and not that you should have cared about what people think. I mean, you really shouldn't, but you have a relationship with people, and they know you as a certain, you know, as what you do, and we're not what we do, are we? We really aren't. We are something so much deeper and
Ye-
something so much more interesting, just always showing up as, oh, I'm this or I'm that. It's very limiting. I'm wondering, with the people that you interviewed for this book, and you said something very interesting, or I read something that you said, this book is not about what to do with your finances after, and maybe how to make money in different ways or whatever, or it's not about anything to do with that, is it? It's the personal,
No,
just
no,
what we're talking about. That's what your book is about.
exactly. It's
Mm.
about your own self development, and really, this whole concept of refreshing and looking at your life, and looking at yourself in a different way. And another word I would like to use is rewirement instead of
Ooh,
retirement.
I like that.
And you are reassessing, you're rewiring your brain to say, this is the time for me. And if you take some courses or you start to learn a new skill or whatever, you actually said the phrase, that no one else cares. You have to understand that, that I'm getting over this cold, and
Okay, it's
it,
not.
and if you you want to take singing lessons, or you want to learn, photography. If you end up not being great at it,
Yeah,
nobody else is going to care. I guarantee you, at this stage of your life, you are completely free. Now, that doesn't mean that if you take on a volunteer obligation or
sure.
teaching or something, then then people will care. But in general, so much of this is again freedom, like we just said before.
Yeah, what I love is, well, what you just said too, because I remember at the beginning of my retirement that I went and took a lot of courses. I went to the university and I took those courses, and except for one, maybe I didn't really like them, and I learned pretty quickly, that wasn't for me. And instead of just continuing and continuing, I've got to take these classes. It'll fill up my life, and then you have to be able to say no. You have to be able to say, walk out of something that maybe, like you say, that you tried that maybe isn't right for you. But the magical part to me has been how, my life has evolved in so many ways. And I'm actually, involved with so many things that really did have to do with the media, but are different, in different ways, the arts
Hmm.
and media and things and they're just as much, if even more interesting than my work. A lot of times people say, oh, you had a great life, with your work and the years that you were on TV and all this. But I'm finding, well, I get to be on TV too now, right? But I mean, but none of that matters to me. It's more just being involved with interesting projects and things that you can do, like where you were saying serving people, helping the world in some way. And there's so much out there, isn't there? I mean, there's so
Yes.
many causes that you get involved with, and it's a real commitment, and it takes time when you're involved with these things.
Right. I mean, the options are limitless, but I want to go back to one thing that I think is
Yeah.
really important, is that what you did, everybody I think does to some
It's-
extent at the
yeah.
beginning. And it's really important that you did that, that you tried, that you checked out a bunch of different things, you learned about some new things, and you basically were just, putting your feet in the water and getting, an idea of what might strike my fancy, and what might make me feel good. And there's no question you're going to try all kinds of things that are not going to change your life. and are not going to feel that fulfilling. Um, and there's no problem with not taking that course again.
Right.
And I just give you a lot of credit for doing that sort of thing. And that is exactly what I think you have to do. And that's how you whittle it down and you start saying, well, that was a waste of time. This, however, is something I think I can pursue, and maybe I can take that to another level. And look at you. I mean, now you're doing all these wonderful interviews, and it's just like, you're also, this is really valuable, is you're taking your experienced brain. You've had all these years that you learned all this, all the things about broadcasting, interviewing, etc. And you are using that now for the better good. This now goes way beyond, you, you're bringing information to other people. So that it's really a wonderful thing. And if you can do that, if you can link what you did before and in some new way, do something like you're doing, it's really valuable.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And it's been like a journey, as you say, it's been a journey, and I find that it just keeps getting more interesting, and better, and connecting with people in different ways that maybe, than I did, because work is, your work, and it's a certain way of doing everything. And now it's like things just happen, I meet people and
Right.
get involved with projects, and I say yes to things. um, did you find that the people in your book, because you interviewed a lot of people, have gone through this process as well? Of just, it's really knowing yourself, isn't it?
Oh,
In
yes.
a way that you
Uh,
never knew yourself, maybe.
yeah, I think very few people merge smoothly into what they're going to do next, or know immediately what it's going to be wonderful for them. I think it takes a trial and error approach. And you lose nothing by trying these things. And uh, I um, I think it takes a little time. I know I can think of one person who really got into something and then it went nuts, and it's probably worth telling you that story.
Mm.
But in general, I think everyone goes through that process, and sometimes they even go to the point where they're overwhelmed with how many things they got involved in, and then they want to pull back. That's not uncommon at all. But it's just a matter of them, refining and again assessing, how they want to spend their time.
So you don't have to fill up every single moment. In fact, that's what I say to myself sometimes. Like, I need some space too. I need to just veg, or do nothing. And I don't seem to have that time, but that's okay. I enjoy.
Well, you need to have balance. I think
Right.
that's
But
really important, and you want to have fun, on top of everything. So,
you don't have to behave the way you did at work, or you had to get through your list every single day. But I think it's so interesting that you had this talent for so many years before photography, right? But
yes,
you didn't really, can I say, find yourself with the photography until retirement, or you already on the path?
I I've enjoyed photography my whole life, but I really did not have time. I took a lot of photographs, but I never had them in any kind of order. They were sitting in boxes and on computer files and in little plastic, sheets with the little slides in them, and I I really wanted to look into that in more depth. And so I spent a lot of time organizing them. And then I had to get a mentor to help me learn how to use Lightroom, which is a processing and developing component for photography on a computer. And I wanted to develop a website. And all that happened, and it was wonderful. But it really just to bring things into focus about what works, what doesn't work. In the beginning, I was accepted into a juried uh, photography exhibit in Brooklyn, and I was very excited. And I was there for 3.5 days, every minute in my booth, showing my photographs, and people would say, "Oh, these are beautiful. We love these. We've got a new place, a new home, and we can use these," and blah blah blah. After 3.5 days, 3.5 days, I
Mhm.
sold one print, one print, and that was to a friend. and it made me completely readjust my thinking. And, uh, to me, it was a little devastating. But then I
Mhm.
thought, I have to just do this because I enjoy it and not associate it with making money or being valued by money, and what I thought people would pay for my work. And that was residual from, my working days. And so I had to go through this whole process. And then ultimately it led to donating photographs, which what I found much, much more fulfilling.
That is really, to me, very, very, I have to say, moving, because that's an important lesson in life. That's another life lesson that you're giving us, is when you get to that point where I don't want to say you don't care, but you're not affected by what other people say or do, so we have some photos that we wanted to show that
Sure.
you have done, some photographs that you have done. And I like the way you always have a message with whatever you're doing. We're going to, yeah, take you on a little short journey to tell us.
So this was really a major life-changing event, and goes to the point of you never know where things are going to take you. And I was asked by my high school back in St. Louis they had seen my artwork on the website, and to do an exhibit at the school. And so I had these prints made. They were big. They were 40 by 60 inches, and they were prints on metal that I did in an exhibition, about 14 of them for about 2 weeks. And I went out there and gave a little talk. And I then, when it was over, I wasn't sure what to do with the prints. I was going to send them back home. And I thought, it might be a cool thing to donate them to the school. And if they would put them around the school and not in a closet somewhere. And they agreed. And I was ecstatic. So now you can go to, I think there's another one example of this. These are the prints hanging on the wall at the school. This particular one was shot in Myanmar. I think you may
Mm,
have another one. There we go. So here's one of the hallways at the school, and this is a photograph of Ireland and the
mm.
countryside. And it was wonderful. I'm just thinking, like, all these students and faculty are walking by my photographs, and it just takes them away from their daily work and puts them into another world. Also, the art department helped me decide what would be appropriate pictures that, for the school. And now they're all hanging there, and it really felt great. Felt so much better than trying to sell photographs.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, here you are with staff.
Okay, so what did it lead to?
Mm,
So then I was trying to think about how can I continue this feeling? I mean, I love this, but I only went to one high school, and I thought, well, wait a minute. I love, so when I want to create something new in my mind, I try to link different areas of interest. So how could I link what I really love, which was photography and medicine? And I decided I'm going to try to donate my photographs to hospitals. And the reason for doing that is most of the time these walls are empty. People come and they're very anxious, and the families are anxious. And this is just a way to have them see a little bit of beauty, to see something to create a more caring environment, a more welcoming environment for them, their families, and for the staff at the hospital. And so this is the first installation I did. This is at Mount Sinai in New York City in the
mm.
cancer clinic. And there are 5 photographs along the wall. This one, I'm standing with some of the nurses, and this is another place. This is uh, in Northwestern at Lake Forest Hospital, which is a branch of Northwestern outside Chicago. And this wall was completely empty, and now there are 6 different photographs up there, and people can just walk along, and they can. We have a little plaque that says, "Take a little time just to, let yourself go and calm down."
Beautiful
Thank
photos. And
you.
I'm happy
Thank
to
you.
see Northwestern is enjoying your photos. I went to school there, but I don't,
Oh, wonderful. Great
yeah,
school.
those photos weren't there then, right? Or I don't even think that building was probably was there then. But you know what I really do love about you? I mean, that I can see, in your message and the way you live is that you continue to evolve and you continue to grow. And would you say that's also the message in your book, in your new book?
Yes,
It's
yes,
about to come out.
yes. I would say that that is really it. In a nutshell. And retirement is a fluid time in your life. This is not just
Yeah.
like a point in time. And you have to remember that we're all living longer and hopefully healthier, and this can take up to 25% of your life. This could be a quarter of your lifetime. And so it's going to change as you go through it. And you're going to have to do this reevaluation at numerous times. And I think in order to maximize, how happy and fulfilled you can be during this. Again, if I had to break it down into three things that I've learned in this whole process, one thing you hear over and over and over is probably the single most important thing is relationships. And that has to do with nurturing your present relationships, developing new ones, and reviving those that have sort of gone by the wayside. The next thing is having a sense of purpose. And I think that is really crucial, something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. To me, we're talking about volunteering or teaching or whatever, it tends to involve helping other people. And then the last thing, which we've talked about, is the trying. And I think it's just, it's absolutely crucial to push yourself every once in a while beyond your limits and try different things, just as you did in the beginning. And and eventually something is going to click.
I really just love this idea, that the best is yet to come if you have that attitude, no matter what, you've done in the past or whatever's happening in your life. You can move on, you can move forward, and you can grow. And
Yeah.
imagine the effect. I can't even imagine the effect that you're having on people that I'm sure that you've sort of awaken them a bit, to realize that, there's nothing wrong with sports and, just maybe, like just doing, let's say you always golf and golfing every day, but you can still golf, but there's more when you retire.
Right. Right. And
And
it's a matter of, yeah,
but
completely.
you have to find yourself and you have to find out. And so what you're asking people to do from what I can, I'm getting is to look within and
Yes.
to
Yes. And to
ask
keep it.
yourself these questions like you did. Yours were very deep questions, and a lot of people don't do that. Sometimes I know that I don't. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I fall back on the old ways of thinking. So I
Right.
really appreciate that you took the time, and I feel this can be like a wake up call for a lot of people, that are people tell me they have nothing to do, that life is boring, or it's not the way it was when they worked, and life can really go on. And like you
Oh,
said, it
yeah.
could be another 25 years you live in, just a wasted time.
There's a lot of great stuff out there, and balancing out your life here is just as important as any time in your life. And I think, what you're saying is really true. And especially with that kind of 25% concept, you really can't think of this as just, as I said, just a little moment in time. This is a major life period. And you should take full advantage of it. And it can be absolutely wonderful.
And I am sure that, just by your being, being this way and spreading this kind of message, it has an impact on people and on your health as well. Because if you're feeling good about your life,
Right.
right, it can,
Yep.
I'm not saying all the time, but it can be really, it can affect, the way you live. And so it's all really, what can I say? It's all really, really good stuff,
Well,
what you
thank you.
have to
I
say and
agree.
what you're sharing with your book. So
Well, thank you so
congratulations.
much.
Thanks so much. Great to talk with you. And I thank you all for joining us. And I want to thank Hammer Murillo, our technical director, who's an example of what we're talking about. She's our technical director here and somebody that works on many, many things at the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center. She's so busy with, helping out there and directing all kinds of events and everything. And she's the technical director. And she's also a pediatrician. As I said, she's a pediatrician who decided to give up some of her work. She still works part-time so that she could do spiritual things that she wanted to do, teach meditation and all of these things. And I remember her when she told them that she was going to do this, they were like in shock. How can you give up half of your work, part of your salary? And she just said, this is what I want to do. And she's still working there, and she's doing quite well. So thank you, Amar, for being part of our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.